Howdy y'all. Okay, we talked about rods and reels the other day. We're going to talk a little bit about fishing line right now. Huge important piece to you being a successful angler. I'm D.W. Verts, Hickbilly Outdoors. Be back in just a minute. We're going to talk about fishing line. It was pointed out to me in my last video that I wasn't talking really about saltwater stuff. Well, my strength is not in saltwater. I've fished one time ever in saltwater. I'm a freshwater fisherman. I fish lakes, creeks, streams, ponds, and that's what I know, so that's what I'm going to talk about. You've got to know your strengths. So we're going to talk about 4 kinds of fishing line that I use in all my fishing. And I don't even use all 4 of them. Okay, let's talk about it. I said I don't use all 4, so this is my opinion. Everything I put on my videos is my opinion. Sometimes it's a pretty learned opinion. It's things I figured out, I know for sure, but I'm not going to argue with folks over any of this. So there's 4 kinds of fishing line that you need to be thinking about using. I guess starting as most simplest and easiest one is old-fashioned monofilament. That means it's one strand. It's called extruded. It's drawn from a bigger piece of material, monofilament. Been around forever. I mean, what, since the 40s or whatever, maybe. Good stuff. We'll talk about it in a minute. The other one I don't even have here. I've got some, but fluorocarbon. It's a newer version of monofilament. It's fancier, better. Anyway, fluorocarbon. Copolymer lines. 2 pieces of line, one inside the other one. Let's keep it complicated, right? Don't have any of that here either. Wonder why. And then we have the braided lines. Braid is a bunch of smaller filaments of material that's wound together like a piece of rope. And some of it is as strong as rope. Now, all these lines have their place in fishing. I keep it simple. Simple fits me, and simple should fit a newer fisherman or the fisherman that's trying to reset. But new fisherman from 6 to 60, I don't care, but if you're trying to simplify, that fits me. I know what's worked for me for my whole life. And I'm going to go to it right now. It's monofilament. For all the things that are negative about monofilament, it's also got a lot of positives. They'll tell you it stretches too much, whatever. I've used monofilament all over the United States, southeast United States, and I've caught so many fish on it, and that's all I have for now. Monofilament, and it's also the most reasonable price line. Real quick on these fluorocarbons, I'm going to be the only guy that's going to tell you this, because everybody's using them. I tried it. It's newer. I don't know how long it's been out, however many years. It's been a while, but I didn't ever use them, and I kind of came back to more serious fishing a few years ago and tried it. So last year I made a conscious effort to really try it. I got several different line tests, and I'm not impressed. Now, there's different brands, and there's some brands are probably better than others. I've been told I used the wrong brand. I did not buy premium fluorocarbon, because it's got to be better if it's more money, right? I never buy into that either. You need to use special knots with it, which my knots I've used my whole life still work. I didn't see enough benefits for the money, okay? And you can buy fluorocarbon fairly cheap. It's my opinion, okay? Copolymers, where one line sits inside the other one. Guys, that stuff come out, that's old. It come out in the 80s. DuPont Prime was the first one, I think. I didn't like it. It broke weird. It broke strange. I just did not like it. They're probably better now. But again, monofilament works. I'm not changing. It's up to you. There's a lot of hype and things. You can read and see videos. You can study all this on other sites. I'm not going to use it. That takes us to braid. I use braid. I use a lot of braid. I use braid in places most people say you can't use braid there. Yes, you can. I use braid from 10 pound to 65 pound. This is 65. This other spool I grabbed is 50. The brands really don't matter. The spider wire thing's been real popular for a long time. I've had really good luck with this Power Pro. It's a more reasonable price. Of course, they're all more than it was a few years ago. Braid is really strong, even a 10 pound. A 10 pound breaking strength, I didn't talk about that. The lines are rated in their breaking strength from 2 to, gosh only knows, hundreds. Bass fishing, like I do a lot of, you have to use some heavier line. Some. The 65 pound I fished with all day yesterday in real heavy cover. But I'm going to tell y'all, a big mistake is, well, if I use heavy line, I'll get my lures back, I'll get my bait back, I won't break off. Yeah, you will, and you'll create a mess. It is so hard to handle that heavy line, and most people don't need it. So I'm going to go out right now and say, no matter what, if you're a newer fisherman or trying to reset fishing, because I think some of that happens, I said in the last video, a medium action rod, a medium action 6.5 foot rod. I'm going to go out and say right now, all you need is 10 pound and 12 pound monofilament. That's all you need for getting back into the game or learning the game. It covers almost everything from catching sunfish to crappie to trout. Yeah, it's a little heavy for trout, but it'll work. 10 pound line will hold a big old fish if you learn how to fight one properly, which is a whole nother story. And that being said, the monofilament, here's what you do, okay? You go buy this stuff right here. Is that going to focus on that, you think? It's Berkeley Trilene Big Game. Big Game is the brand of it. It's their cheap line. It's their entry-level line. That spool there, which is 15 pound, 900 yards. 900 yards. That's enough to fill up at least 9 reels. It's like $8. Whatever. It's come up a little bit. It's cheap. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Two advantages of cheap. Cheap fits you when you're like me, don't have any money. Cheap allows you to change your line more often because nobody changes their line enough. Even big hitter stud bass pros with their $100,000 bass boats probably don't change line enough. You need to change your line. So if you're not sure about fishing, about line and all this, go get some of this Big Game. I don't know if your tackle shop don't sell it. Walmart does, I know. And you won't go wrong. If I was fishing the Bassmasters Classic, which I'm not, if I was fishing for $100,000 tomorrow, that would be on my reels. That's how good it is. That's how much faith I have in it. Okay? Bottom line, fact, that's all there is to it. If you want to buy high dollar line or you want to buy into copolymer and fluorocarbons, good. It all works. But there's a few things you have to worry about with fishing line you have to think about. Okay, very quickly, fishing line gets old. Heat affects, especially monofilament, I'm sure the copolymer and fluorocarbon, heat is bad. And I leave my stuff in my shop right now. It's 100 degrees or close to it. So heat's bad. Ultraviolet light, sunlight and ultraviolet lights inside a tackle shop. The best place to keep your fishing line is in a refrigerator or in a freezer. I've kept line for years in those situations. So the trick is there, you just change it once in a while, and you need to learn how to change it. Real detailed stuff here, but for instance on spinning reels and spin cast reels where they go around like this when you're cranking them, you got to put it on the right way. You put it on the wrong way, it's a snarly mess. Look it up on the internet, or I'll try to do a video someday on that. It's too complicated for now. But fishing line gets bad. So what's more important? You're fishing, and a 10-pound catfish gets you. Your reel's probably going to crank him in. Your rod's probably not going to break. Your fishing line between you and that fish is about the most important. It's your link. I said in the last video, there's two things more important, but you have to have good fish line. I'm amazed by how many people I see go out with old line and fight kinks and snarls, and it breaks real easy, and it's rotten, and they cuss it. I've seen this my whole life as a guide. People bring tackle that shouldn't have been fit. It's just a mess. Keep your line in the coolest places. Change it regular. When you buy 900 yards for that kind of price, you can afford to change it once a month. Well, I don't go fishing that often. Just as bad. It goes bad with your fish. Matter of fact, it's like a vehicle that stuff wears out on set and probably better to run it once in a while. Buy that reasonable price. Now there's cheaper lines. You can buy cheaper lines than that. Don't buy that discount Shakespeare, whatever those spools that are $5. Don't. Trust me. You'll end up fighting them, and fighting fishing line is one of the most attracting things there is from the sport of fishing. Okay? So we've established that I don't like new technology. I'm not a fan of always fancy new lines. They're not going to catch any more fish. Keep it simple, y'all, and I'm trying to keep that simple. If you want good fishing line, at big game, I've never seen anything any better than big game. The price is good. If you want to step your game up, good for you. There's other brands. The modern fishing line is great technology. It's wonderful for all of us. It's better than it's ever been. I just like to keep it simple. I use braid and monofilament exclusively. I don't do braid to copolymer leaders either, but I don't like complicated things. You got to learn 3 or 4 knots, 2 or 3 knots in it. About 4 knots really what a person needs to know. We'll talk about that in another video. I'm done. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'm Dale Verts. God bless. We'll talk at you soon.